Hey friends, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of FitBody, and I'm one of your hosts here at the FitBody Inside Look. Now this show is for our franchise partners and for those interested in joining our brand, where we execute meaningful interviews with our HQ teammates, franchise partners, and coaches to provide an inside look at the internal operations here at FitBody Bootcamp headquarters. This way, you get more acquainted with our brand and the business ownership opportunity ahead. Enjoy this episode. My brother, Max Phillips, welcome to the Inside Look.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, friends. Well, this is a great opportunity for you all to meet my dear friend, a guy that I look at as my younger brother, who's also our senior franchise advisor here at FitBody Bootcamp, who's had a lot of success bringing on franchise partners and really helping them be very successful. So the essence of this show is we were dialoguing after the fact or before this and realized there are just some standard sample questions that it just seems all of our prospects going through the pipeline ask. So we want to take a step back and actually break those down and really be able to provide you some space to be able to provide those answers to overcome any concerns. Does that work for you, buddy?
That works. Perfect. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Before we get into that, I want to just color in the details, a little bit of storytell about who you are, how you got involved in the opportunity. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I'm from a very small town in Michigan, about an hour north of Detroit. You're familiar because we grew up 15 minutes from each other, so it's a small town, Romeo.
Yep.
But yeah, 15 minutes, so small world. We both decided to leave that snow and that weather and come to beautiful California.
That's it.
But yeah, so I went to school over there, Romeo High School, and then I got my business degree from the other side of the state, so the west side, right by Lake Michigan over there. It's called Grand Valley State University.
Yep.
So I received my business degree there. I started getting into the mortgage world, helping people refinance their homes.
Why'd you go into that after college? And before you do, it's really cool we talked about this. Ironically, if you can believe, Max and I, we're about 10 years apart. We met in this building, but literally we grew up about 15 minutes from each other, which is just bonkers to me.
Crazy.
So in any case, we grew up, you went out west, or at least the west side of the state, went to Grand Valley, and then my question was, why did you get into mortgages after school?
Yeah, two things. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make a lot of money. Right, and I knew mortgage banking, you could do that. And so it was cool. I was in that atmosphere for a while. I was doing well, but I was still living in Romeo, but I was working downtown Detroit, and you're familiar, like rush hour, that's an hour and 20-minute drive easily.
Yep.
And we were putting in 12, 14-hour days consistently, and so I was getting back at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it was very common for everyone in that industry to be very overweight, out of shape. They're eating snacks just because they can't get a meal. They're just constantly go, go, go. And I started realizing that was happening to me, and I'm like, I don't want that to be me. I've always been huge into fitness. And so I got a really cool opportunity to work for a very large international automotive company. It wasn't fitness, but I'm like, all right, this got me closer to home. But this company was really cool. I travel the world. I've been to China multiple times, India, Mexico, Canada, as a young guy learning international business, international sales, business-to-business sales, and getting that experience, which was awesome. So, I mean, I love that, and just how people do business in different countries is very different.
Yeah.
Right? Like China's complete opposite of the U.S. It's very conversational based. Like the first 3 meetings you have, it's just about getting to know the other person. Zero talk about business. Right? We're here in the U.S. It's like small talk for 2 minutes and let's get down to it. It's different.
Totally. Yep.
And so it was really cool being part of that and learning all that. But I've always been huge into fitness. I knew that was like my calling from like the beginning, and I felt very trapped towards that. And I tell everyone this story, like I was talking to these people. I've been in this industry for years, and they're like, Max, I'm gonna give you some advice. I'm like, what's that? They're like, get out of this industry while you can. I was like, well, why do you guys say that? They said I was right where you were. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, this really isn't a passion of mine, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna start making good money. You're going to get good benefits. You're going to get those golden handcuffs. And it's going to be 15, 20 years later, and you're wondering, how, like, what the heck happened in your life and how you got here. And I was like, oh, shoot, that's already happened to me. I was making good money. I'm traveling the world. But I felt like I just hit a limit. I'm like, there's not that much more room to go up. Even at a young age, I knew, like, there wasn't too much space. I'm like, I need to get out of here. And so I kind of felt lost for a couple of months. I didn't really know what to do. And then this guy, Bedros Keuilian, popped up on my Instagram. I haven't even heard of him. And so he ended up posting what's called The Project, right? And you're familiar with The Project, a 75-hour like self-development experience for men. Very tough, very hardcore. Only like 50% of the men that join make it. But I was class 4. We're like on class like 18 now. I didn't know what it was. There wasn't much marketing material out there. And so they called me up and they said, next class is in 2 weeks. Are you ready? I said, yeah, I think so. I don't know. Luckily I was ready. I was always like in shape, taking care of myself, but like it was tough. It was tough, and I made it through, and I ended up becoming close with Bedros, and he said, Max, I'd love for you to come out here and work for me. And I didn't think twice. I'm like, fitness industry, helping people open up their own business. I'm like, that is like 100% me. So I packed everything up, 36 hours across country, and sunny California with you now.
Look at that, man. What a story. Well, that's incredible foundation. I love your background in fitness and personal growth. How do you think, I guess, your background in fitness has really helped you be able to help our franchise partners coming through?
And this is what I tell anyone in anything you do. You have to be passionate about what you do. Like, you have to believe it. You have to be, like, you can't be a hypocrite, right? Like, I'm huge into fitness. I'm always working out. Like, I can't tell someone else to start a gym if I don't work out myself, right? And so I'm huge into that. So I love helping people because I truly believe, like, fitness is, like, the founding, like, just really... I should say it's what stems from, like, for everything, like your financial growth, like your relationship with your spouse. Like, I believe everything stems from fitness. I'm a huge believer in that.
It's like the gateway drug of awesomeness towards your life.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in that. And so if I can help people with their fitness and that leads to financial freedom, a better relationship with their kids, their spouse, like whatever, like that's a win.
Oh, yeah.
So
now, shifting gears to California, what would you say from your perspective is the thing that you love the most about California? And the flip side, what's the most challenging thing for you?
Yeah, well, that's super easy, actually. So what I love the most, I love the weather, but I'm super outdoorsy. Like, I love hiking. I love going to the beach. And so it's really cool. I'm 45 minutes from the beach, 45 minutes from mountains. I'm 45 minutes from the desert. Like, I can do whatever I want, which I'm always outdoors. Like, it's December and I'm wearing short sleeves outside. Like, it's awesome.
Yep.
What I don't like is the traffic. There's too many people, right? And that's one thing. I miss that small town. I do miss that Midwest, like, small town. Everyone says hi.
Yep.
I say hi to people out here and people look at me like, why are you saying hi? And it's just a little different, right? And so I'm a Midwest boy. Like, I will always be a Midwest boy.
So speaking of which, what's the biggest thing you miss back from the Midwest?
The small town feel. And I know you can get that in certain areas in California, but like just where we are, like, it's, to me, this is big. I had 6 neighbors on my road, a dirt road. Like, that was it. In the middle of the woods where I can literally, ride bikes wherever I want. I would shoot off my porch. Like, it was just different. It's a different world out there. And so I do miss that kind of like outdoor country living a little bit, but we have mountains out here and it's nice weather. So
Yeah, we do. I was going to ask about family too. And that's obviously, you being very connected with your family, which I love in the same way. What would you say, or can you really elaborate, can tell our audience just a little bit about, your parents and your sister and all that?
Yeah. So my mom, my dad, and then I have a little sister named Addie. And so it was really cool kind of growing up, which I loved. My dad is very business oriented. Kind of that entrepreneur, so I got that side, and my mom is more of the, like, positive thinker, like dream, like attraction, like, energy and all that, which is awesome. And I think truly to be a great entrepreneur, you need a little bit of both. And so it's kind of cool I had that. And then my little sister, like, that's love her to death. Like, she's 3 years younger than me. She was like a little mini me, and so it's tough not seeing them all the time, but I try to get back as soon as I can.
Because they're still in Michigan?
Yeah, they're all still in Michigan. What's cool, my mom's coming out. Like, she comes out for the holidays. I'll go back there sometimes for the holidays. I'll try to fly. Like, I flew my sister out a couple months ago, and we went to Disneyland and stuff like that. So I still get to see them.
Love it, man. You're a good dude. All right, so now I want to kind of pick up the story where you come to California. You just finished the project, which is like this military style boot camp, personal growth development. You finished one of the best in class. Bedros took a keen interest in you. I very quickly met you as like, all right, this guy has what it takes. So talk to us about your entrance into Fit Body, the year it was, and kind of the element of what was going on in the world.
Yeah. It was craziness. It was the middle of COVID, right? 2020. Trying to sell gyms when many places weren't allowed to open up gyms was very difficult, right? And I remember Bedros talking to me. He said, Max, we used to sell X amount per month, and we've only done this much in the last year because of COVID. It's been really tough. And I just knew this was the right place. I'm just like, I've always been the person, like, I trust my gut. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll figure it out, and it's worked. So it's been cool because being the head person here at sales, I mean, every year we've, like, literally doubled what we've been doing consistently. And it's so cool because I get to help these people open up. And the way I look at it is if I help one person open up and they impact hundreds of members there, like I just counted the other day, I've helped open up over 120 people now, which is awesome. Times that by all their members, like I've helped impact tens of thousands of people's lives indirectly, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So like that, I love it. Like it gets me excited.
Now, why would you say? I mean, obviously, COVID was a huge wrench in terms
Yeah.
of launching a brick and mortar business for a lot of people and the government regulations. But aside from that, we've just had such explosive growth since 2020. What are some of the reasons why, from your lens?
A few things. Well, we switched a lot of things here at headquarters, which is awesome, right? Being part of leadership and I get to see all this now, like we've switched a lot of things. We actually guarantee people day one, they open up with a minimum of 100 people, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyone that's ever operated a business, like if you can open up with 100 people day one, that is such a massive head start and like can lead you to success. And so being able to do that has been like an absolute game changer because I have people literally reaching out to me within a year going, I'm ready for locations 2 and 3 now. Right? It's just insane. Just the amount of support that we have on our onboarding team and seeing how it's grown just in the 3.5 years I've been here. Like we are literally walking people through the entire way, making sure they have a strong start, making sure they're trained correctly and they're prepared to open up their doors. And so just having that infrastructure in place has been like massive.
Yeah. And just you and your effort and your leadership and being on the leadership team. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but I want to also acknowledge you in the process.
I appreciate it.
All right. So I want to kind of dive into the point of this particular conversation, which again, it's human nature is interesting. As you go through the process, what we've learned is, a lot of our potential franchise partners have this exact same question. So we want to do our franchise or future franchise partners a solid and set up a conversation, bring out the top 15 most frequently asked questions. Yeah. I'm going to basically tee this up and you're going to unpack it if that works for you, buddy. All right. Number one. This question goes like this. Max, I'm the breadwinner of my family. How am I going to support my family for the next year or so when I get my fit body off the ground?
Yeah, that's the main one I get. I get a lot of people they have a family they need to take care of, right? Starting a business can be risky and be unknown. And so what I always tell these people and what a lot of people don't realize is 85% of our owners actually have to keep their job at first, right? So keep your job. Like people think like right when I authorize the agreement to move forward with you, I have to quit my job. Like, no, we actually recommend not to do that. Keep your job, keep money coming in because what that's going to do is going to relieve that stress and that pressure. You will end up being a better entrepreneur because you can actually focus on your business.
Totally.
Right? Instead of worrying about how to pay the bills. So I always tell people keep your job. Once that money starts coming in and you see what FitBody is doing, at that point, then you can decide like, hey, am I ready to leave the job or not? But keep your job at first.
Yeah, amen. And as you know, for our audience, I'm also not only the CEO of the brand, but I'm a franchise partner as well. Yeah. Scaled to a handful of locations from the year 2012 to 2018. Still have one location at the time of recording, but to your point, I kept my sales job for the first 18 months of the business, probably a little bit longer than I should have. Probably been a 6 to 12 months if I would have done it over again, but really that helped me exponentially to make sure that I could get the business off in really strong footing. So.
Correct. Yep.
All right, next up, and really this is from the end of 2020, early 2021. We've been in a recession in this kind of weird economic climate. So the question is, I know a lot of gyms are considered by the public as discretionary in terms of expense. How am I supposed to be profitable during this time, Max?
Yeah, great question. So there's two things with this. So just because we like fit bodies in fitness, a lot of people think so like that discretionary income, that is more big box gyms. Right? Where people are paying $10, $20 a month and they're not really getting results. Like what we do here is very different. It's a family. We are creating results. We're getting people results. It's a fun place to be. People don't give that up. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to go out to eat today, right? Like that's discretionary income. This is like a way of life and it's very different than a big box gym. So when there is recessions, of course, like naturally you're going to see a slight downtick in anything, but it's not like the big box gyms. Very different ball game here.
Totally.
Okay? And then the other part is, a lot of people don't realize this, but a recession happens every 6.5 years. Every 6.5 years there's a recession, right? That's just the economy. That's how it works. And so what I always politely try to tell people is if you're trying to time it, maybe entrepreneurship isn't right for you. Like that's just the truth. Because you will run into at least 12 to 15 recessions in your lifetime. If you plan on being an entrepreneur, you're going to hit a few of those, right? So it's more of how do I be successful during those. That's what we're here for. You're not in business alone trying to figure this out. we've done this 1,000 times, right? We started during the Great Recession. We've made it through COVID. We made it through high inflation. That is our job to teach you how to do that. Your job is just to be coachable.
Dude, amen to that. And two parts on that. I mean, to your point, people leave gyms, but they don't leave relationships. And we have a relationship business. In your words, the community aspect is so important. So, really that is a strong connection and retention tool. So I think that's the big point that I wanted to really drive the point home.
100%.
All right, next up, question number 3 on our frequently asked question list. Max, taking on $250,000 of debt is hard for me to work through mentally. From a mental perspective, how I'm going to pay that back and be profitable at my gym.
Yeah, so in the U.S., we view debt as very bad, and rightfully so, because many people in the U.S. use debt very badly, right? We take out loans for cars we can't afford, too big of a house. We take out credit card debt to buy clothes and things and vacations that we can't afford. That is bad debt. There is also something called good debt, though, and that is taking money and using debt to buy an income-producing asset. Very different. Very different, right? That's called using other people's money. That is how most businesses leverage and being able to expand and grow into entrepreneurship, right? And so I always try to tell people, not all debt is bad, right? It's not like you're taking $250,000 and buying a boat. You're buying a fit body with the goal of having that fit body paying you years down the line. Very different.
Yeah, and if you look back at, really successful business people, entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires, they have a lot of debt. It's good debt to be able to use as leverage to grow their assets. So couldn't agree with you more, that my friend. All right, number 4, which you hit on a little bit. Can I keep my job and still run a fit body?
Yeah, very simple. Yes. 85% of our owners, they keep their job at first. We recommend it. Once you get to that point where you feel comfortable, then leave your job, right? Don't do it before. You're going to be totally fine. Again, 85% of our owners do that. So there's nothing to be worried about.
And I'm one of them, as we just talked about. So, all right, number 5, there's a lot of competition in my area, Max, and I'm worried that where I'm at is too saturated. How does FitBody compete with other gyms?
Yeah, so a lot of people think just because someone's in the fitness world that they're competition. It's not how it works, right? Big box gyms, very different. Local mom and pop gyms, it sounds bad, but it's just the truth. They don't have the marketing dollars to keep up, right? So it is very different. So really it only comes down, there's only a couple direct competitors that we have. So Orange Theory, it's at 45, it's Burn Boot Camp. That's what it comes down to. And so what makes us different than those? It's very simple. There's a few things, but one of the main ones is nutrition. We focus on nutrition when they do not, period. I've talked to many coaches from these locations, many owners. Every one of them says, Max, what you guys have for nutrition, we don't have, period. Okay? 80%, and you know this, 80% of it, if not more, has to do with nutrition. The problem is most gyms focus on that 20%, which is the fitness side, and then they wonder why people don't get results. Okay, we focus on nutrition. That is a huge differentiation point there, and what separates us. Also, we're very relationship based. Like it is, you're not a number. We know your family. We know your why. We know why you're here. If you don't show up, it is very common for an owner to send you a text and be like, "Hey, you were supposed to be in today. You didn't make it. Is everything okay? Is the family okay?" Like it's just different. It's different. So it's so funny because I always talk to people going through this process and they're worried about competitors. And then I talk to them a year later. I said, how are those competitors treating you? And they always laugh. And they're like, oh, it's nothing.
And I want to interject because that's the same as me. When I first was looking at this model back in 2011, 2012, I was looking for all the quote unquote competitors, but I was thinking of the business as a commodity, like, hey, a gym that naturally they're a competitor. When the fact of the matter is 80% of our population here in the States is either statistically obese or overweight. And we are solving a problem. To your point, nutrition is what separates us. And when you get an awesome nutrition program, we have 2 amazing programs. Our initial entry point is the Ultimate Transformation Program, where we guarantee that our clients will lose 10 pounds within 6 weeks, or they train for free until they do. And the reason we're able to make that guarantee is because we have an awesome nutritional support. And then we have our Boot Camp Plus, which is our ongoing membership that has nutrition coaching. And when our clients, they get awesome results, guess what? They stay, they pay, and they refer. So the competition is actually McDonald's and fast food, more so than it is even the commodity of other gyms in the area. So
I love that. Yeah.
Amen. All right, number 6, Max. It seems there's been some locations that have shut down in the last few years, specifically around the COVID era. Why is this the case?
Yeah, COVID. COVID was tough, right? And so what a lot of people forget, a lot of people think COVID was just 2020. They forget about the Delta variant, the Omicron, like the 3, 4 other variants that came after that, right? It was craziness. Many states actually couldn't even open up if they wanted to, like businesses. It was insanity, right? And so the good news is we actually have, and we created 2 things for COVID, which helped many of our locations stay open. And so the first one is we have our train in place modality, right? 8x8 squares, they're socially distanced, allowed many of our locations to open up. This was huge, okay? But we also, for the states that literally were like, you cannot open your doors or you will get fined, which there were many states out there like that, we created actual virtual training to keep their door, like not keep their doors open, but keep pay coming in so that the members still have that community feel because they're still like on a Zoom type of thing where they're interacting and they're having fun with people and they're seeing people, but then the owner is still getting paid. Results are still being done. Like it worked out.
Totally.
And so tough times, other main gyms out there, filing for bankruptcy, restructuring debt, we didn't have to do that at all. So, I mean, yes, we lost locations, but it was COVID. It was the hardest time in like gym period history.
Yeah, black swan event for sure. And especially certain states, that were blue versus red, et cetera, that closed down. Unfortunately, because of, bad government protocols, that really hurt. But to your point, going back to our program, what separates us isn't, commodity like a big box gym. We're a results-based program. You just mentioned Zoom training, where our coaches were able to continue the relationship with their clients, continue nutrition coaching, which really helped us weather the storm.
Correct, yes.
Alrighty, number 7. I really like Fit Body, but leaving my job to open up a location where making money is not guaranteed, just like any business is not guaranteed, is scary to me, Max. Do other owners struggle with this fear as well?
Yeah, it's one of the main things I kind of help people through because what's happening is they're coming in with more of an employee mindset and they're developing to that entrepreneur mindset. Those are very different mindsets, right? And at a certain point, this is what I tell people, you have to take that leap of faith, right? From where you are to where you want to be. And so the difference is if you were doing this on your own, you're taking that leap of faith and you're jumping, you're landing not on stable ground because there's a huge learning curve. You don't know anything. You're trying to figure it out. That's scary. That is why most businesses fail. But what happens is when you're joining a company like Fit Body, you're taking that leap of faith, but you're landing on very stable ground who's done this 1,000 times. We helped open hundreds and hundreds of locations, and we're actually showing you what to do. And so I try to help people through that mindset. I also try to help people remember what your why is, right? People come to me and they tell me their why, and it's a very strong why. It's all fun and games when you're thinking, oh my gosh, entrepreneurship, it's going to be awesome, until that agreement is in front of you and you go, oh my gosh, this is real, right? And what happens is some people forget their why, they get nervous, they go back to the normal life that they were living, which is what left them unhappy and left them to us in the first place. And now it's 2-3 years later and they're doing the same thing. I always tell people you should be more afraid of that. Worst comes to worst, you can always go back to a job. There's someone's going to hire you. That's why I tell people. I realize human nature. We always think the worst case scenario.
And everything's going to be indefinite, right?
Yes.
To your point, you can course correct.
Yes.
You can adjust. You're not set in stone forever, which is incredible.
Right. And so that's why I try telling people. And again, it's just a lot of mindset coaching there. And many people make it through and they get it. And I love seeing these people a year or two later because they're like, Max, I'm living life on my own terms. I get to go on vacation when I want. I get to, do what I want. I'm making money now. I'm in charge of my own money. I'm not relying on someone else. That is so beautiful. And that can be there for anyone if they're willing to take that leap of faith.
Totally. And then to your point, not relying on other people, I feel even the recession, concern that kind of gets brought up. I believe, and what I've seen it time and time again, you are way better off controlling your own destiny, being able to bring in money, be able to run a business, than if something happens and you're an employee and the layoffs happen. You have really very limited control on that. So if anything, this is actually putting back in the control in your hands, which is really liberating.
Yeah, 100%.
Alrighty, number 8, Max Man. I'm the only Fit Body in my area, and there's no brand awareness yet. How will Fit Body help with that?
So this is a funny one. I always tell people, you're so lucky. There are so many people that call me up and they're looking for a spot, and I literally can't help them because there's no territory available.
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry, there's no more room. So if that is you and you're lucky enough to have a spot that isn't developed yet, what a massive opportunity because you can expand. We will help with the marketing side. We guarantee no matter where you are, you're going to open up with a minimum of 100 members, guaranteed. We will guarantee it, right? And so we will help with that side. We're going to do Facebook ads. We're going to teach you all that. Don't worry about it. be blessed that you're in a spot that you can expand. Like that is so rare.
Totally. And then to your point about marketing initiatives, that's like an incredible gift. And then you can still leverage all the awesome, marketing initiatives that we have at Fit Body.
Right.
As an example, we just finished our second annual Fit Body Food Battle. The first annual food battle, we had our few hundred locations participate. We donate 100,000 food items collectively. Year 2, we literally doubled participation and we almost doubled our output with 182,000 pounds of food. I was able to represent our brand on Fox News, get a bunch of press and publicity. And that's the beautiful part of being the brand, even in a small local field where our brand awareness isn't where it will be at some point in the near future. Right. You still have all that marketing support, which is the win-win.
Correct.
All right, number 9, inflation, which certainly has been a topic of conversation in the current administration, is very high and is expensive to take on debt right now. I do not think right now is a good time, and I should wait until inflation dies down. Max, what are your thoughts on this?
This is something I've actually learned from you and Bedros. When it comes to entrepreneurship, waiting is almost never the answer, right? Like you never know, like inflation could end tomorrow. It could go another 5-6 years. Are you going to wait 5-6 years? Are you trying to time it? Like if I have anyone that's into stocks and all that, like anyone that says they can time the market, they're lying. Like no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring, right? And so if you're trying to time the economy to be able to take this leap of faith and go into entrepreneurship and take control of your time and your finances, like you could be waiting forever. And in the meantime, someone who doesn't care about that's going to come swooping in and taking that territory. Like I've seen it over and over.
Totally.
So I always tell these people too, if you're worried about little things that you can't control, like inflation or COVID, entrepreneurship might not be right for you. And again, that's okay. Like we need employees out there. Mm-hmm. We need them. Mm-hmm. But entrepreneurship is very different. And those types of people aren't worried about those small things like that.
And I would even say inflation can and is to your advantage, assuming that you continue to grow your business. And the reason I say this is because inflation, what it really is, it's a hidden tax on the poor and middle class. Because when you're, an employee, and inflation happens, and if you're not getting raises that equates to that, ultimately you're losing purchasing power. Where on the flip side, if you're a business owner, guess what? You can raise your rates, right, which you don't have the ability to do that as an employee. So, and there's few jobs that do that are highly leveraged. So that's a blanket statement. But if anything, you're actually putting the tailwinds at your advantage. Being an entrepreneur, setting your own trajectory because an inflationary event. So
yep, it's just a different mindset.
Totally. All right, cranking through the list. Top 10, number 10 here, frequently asked question. I will have to keep my job at first, which means I most likely will have to hire a general manager. That can be expensive, Max. How am I going to be able to profitable when I do this?
Yeah, so what I always tell people if you plan on keeping your job at first and you want to be very hands-off, then yes, you're going to need a general manager. Most people, though, when they're coming here, they don't want to be completely hands-off. And so what's cool is, and this is what I always tell people, is long-term mindset versus short-term, right? So in the short term, you might be putting in a little extra hours. You're working your job. You're trying to still fit body. What's so beautiful about our timing, though, is normally when we have our sessions is when you're not working your job, right? It's anywhere from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then from 4 to 7. People are usually working in between those hours. Mm-hmm. So you can do both. Not saying you need to be there all the time, right? That's why you have coaches. We recommend that people start off with anywhere from 2 to 3 coaches at first. If you can train up a coach to kind of handle this session when you're gone, you don't need to be there 24/7. You can still be the manager without hiring a general manager. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I try to share with a lot of people.
Yeah, spot on. Don't have anything to color in there. That was it. Next one. Holy smokes. I love this. I still get this to this day, even in my particular position. Max, is 30 minutes really long enough to get results? There's many other gyms out there doing 45 minutes, an hour, sometimes an hour and a half classes. What gives?
Yeah. I love this one. Here, the first thing I tell people is, you give me the most in-shape person in the world, I promise you, I will make their life miserable in 10 minutes.
Totally.
I promise you.
Totally.
Right? It is not hard. And so 30 minutes is more than enough. This is high-intensity interval training. Like you're working out, I like to think I'm in good shape. Mm-hmm. I do fit bodies. I'm sitting there huffing and puffing at the end. Right? Totally. If I tell you I want you to do as many push-ups as you can in 2 minutes, you're going to be fried. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's 2 minutes. I'm going to say, Bryce, we got 28 more minutes to go. Right? 30 minutes is more than enough. It's the same story over and over.
Totally. It's a secret sauce. And shoot, man, I mean, I get my boot camp workouts on a weekly basis. And even when I'm doing, a gym workout, I work out 30, 35 minutes at most, right? Even outside of Fit Body. And, equally to you, we're both in great shape. And, just because you go to the gym doesn't mean you're going to get results.
True.
I always say just because you go to church doesn't mean you're going to heaven. It's about what you do in the process and really how you develop yourself. And the value of Fit Body is 30-minute high intensity interval training. You're maximized. It's super efficient. And we really give twice the results in half the time.
Yep,
So
100%.
All right, number 12, location. Location is very critical for success, as we know in business. In this particular situation, there's not really too much real estate around me. Max, what do I need to do?
Yeah, so here's what's cool. You're going to get access to our territory team. Like, this is what they do. Okay, we help people in very large cities to people in the middle of the country. We've seen it all. We always find a location for someone every single time. And so what's cool about that, you will get to leverage our national broker who will be able to see listings that you can't see just off of Google, right? And so they have those relationships. They are figuring this out. Like, you're going to have that power behind you when it comes to finding a spot. Now, worst comes to worst. Like, if there's nothing just in that town, what we're going to do is solution-minded. We're going to find the next best spot that's nearby and find a spot there. Like, we always figure it out.
Always do. And even for me, it was interesting when I first opened in 2012, it was like really challenging in terms of finding real estate, but was able to like link up with our brokers here, get the support from HQ and launched one. And then it worked out where I launched in at 5. So you got this, friends. You got this. All right, number 13, I am concerned that COVID will hit again. FitBody lost locations throughout the last COVID round. How will this time be different?
Yeah, so kind of what I mentioned earlier, like we have those two things in place, the training plus modality, we have the virtual training, we have a lot of lessons learned. Realistically, do I think COVID will happen again? Probably not, but you never know, right? But we have things set in place. And so I also think too, and this is interesting, I always tell people, COVID did something very interesting that hurt us in the short term, but really helped us in the long term.
Yeah.
And it was a couple things. One, we heard a lot of people say I can work out on my own. They did it for a week or two and then they stopped. We always joke around here at headquarters, we call it, right, the COVID 15. They gained 15 pounds. It was so common, right? 2, people did not like being isolated.
No.
Right? And we know what that did to mental health. We have group training here. Very different, right? So you have that connection. People like are coming still. It's insane. And then the third one is people started realizing the best thing to prevent COVID is their health.
Yes.
Right? People didn't realize that before. And then they realized, oh my gosh, like it's the people that are struggling with diabetes and pre-existing health conditions. Obesity, right? And now these people are realizing, oh my gosh, I need to take my health very seriously. And so, and I'm sure you can say this with your location too, so many people were coming in after COVID because they were taking it seriously now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 2020 sucked. That's just the reality of the situation, right. Especially being, I'm talking now not as the CEO of the brand, but a franchise partner of the brand, which I have one location here in Southern California, and the restrictions and government regulations of the state of California were just, horrible. That in mind, in 2021 and 2022, saw the biggest rebound possible and just broke through any initial in terms of revenue and member count that we had even before COVID. So as it turns out, it was a really challenging time to go through, but to your point, we learned a lot, and my location and many others actually benefited long term, as indicated in our brand growth of the last 18 months.
I love it.
Alrighty, next up, staring at the barrel, depending on, I guess, when you digest this content, but an election is coming up in the foreseeable future, and I do not feel comfortable where things are going. Shoot, I don't feel comfortable either. Side note, no, I think I'd rather wait until after the election. What are your thoughts on this, Max?
Yeah, so this is what I always tell people, guys, and I'm going to be just kind of direct, but just to help people. If you are relying on the president to be in charge of your finances, you have already lost. Like, period, okay? It will change every 4 to 8 years. If you're putting you and your family's, like, financial well-being in the hands of every 4 to 8 years, whoever it is, like, that's insanity. You're just kind of going with the flow, right? So, again, that's a mindset change. It's changing that more of the employee to that entrepreneur mindset of that I'm in charge of my life. I'm responsible for myself. No one else is like in charge of like what I do and what I can bring in. So again, it's just a mindset change I kind of help people through. But yeah, guys, the president, like it doesn't matter who it is. Like you're going to be fine. They're not in charge of your economy. You are in charge of your own economy.
You are in charge of your economy. I love that. And the truth is, I mean, 100% of what you just laid down. The truth is what we learned from COVID. Your state governor has more impact than actually the president. And ultimately, you've lived in the state that you want to live in. And typically the states, they vote in the same way. So there you go. All right. Last but certainly not least, man, this is an extensive list. So this has been really cool kind of going through this with you, Max. Number 15. It seems like FitBody has a lot of fees. I'm thinking about starting my own business instead. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this is great. So this usually comes from people who have never started a business before. Because the people that started a business, they're like, Max, like I spend more than what you guys charge in 3 months and a month in marketing.
Wild. And I know this. I'm a business owner. It's wild compare how reasonable fees are for the value that's produced.
Correct. And so that's why, again, it's just coaching. Because it's not that, it's just the unknown. People are unaware, and it's just kind of filling that gap. And so what I always tell people is if you're going to go to business on your own, you have zero brand awareness, you're going to spend a ridiculous amount of money in marketing just to get that brand awareness. You also don't know what you don't know. And you get into business and you realize, oh my gosh, I need this software. I need to put these systems into place. And you start realizing I have to get all these things that cost money.
Yep.
And then before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of money, right? That is why most entrepreneurs fail. And so I always laugh when people say that. We have all the software figured out for you. We have marketing that's done for you. You have a business coach here that's going to guide you, right? You're paying for that.
Totally.
It's not a fee. You're paying for that.
And if anything, it just multiplies by like a factor of 10x plus in terms of the value and the revenue that you can gain. Because to your point, business just has expenses. And this is the world of an entrepreneurship. But I can tell you, and again, this is not from being the CEO. This is me being a franchise partner. It's a fraction. I would be silly if I decided to move away as the CEO of the brand and move away from FitBody. It would be silly because I would literally 5x my expenses considering the value that's included in this brand. So, boom. All right, Max, man, this has been awesome. Are there any last parting words that you have for our audience who's going through the process? Maybe talked to you, maybe hasn't talked to you yet, but they're excited. They know in their heart of hearts, they have a passion for fitness and people. They're growth-minded and they're coachable, which are the three things that we look for. So they have those things installed, but for whatever reason, there's this little voice in their back of their head, kind of being that inner critic. What would you say to that person?
Actually, what my dad told me, he goes, Max, you have one life. You have one life. You don't want to be lying on your deathbed going, what if? Like, if you have a dream, like, go after it with everything you have. And, like, you just won't live with regrets at that point. Like, it's one life.
Mic drop, my dude. I think that's where we're going to wrap. This has been awesome. Appreciate you. And friends, I want to sign off in this particular episode. The fact is that no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. I know you got a ton of value. We'll see you here in the next episode of The Inside Look.